Hi, it's Christy of So to Speak, and welcome back to the So to Speak Closet series. So the cool thing about having a video series that you started is that you get to choose who comes to the closet. And not only do you get to bring in people who you've never met and get to know them, and bring in people who you know, but you get to know better, but you also get to bring in your best friends, which is exactly what I did. I went all the way out to Austin, Texas, and roped in one of my bestest friends for nearly 20 years, Mrs. Kaysie Seitz Brown. She is an associate professor of dance at Texas State University. And Kaysie and I discuss everything from the importance of working in a restaurant at some point in your life and pay homage to the food and beverage industry, since Kaysie and I were a huge part of that for a good majority of our creative careers. And they are one of the many sectors getting hit big time during COVID. So we discuss what it is that drew us to love waiting tables and bartending, and not just that we had to, but that we thoroughly enjoyed it. And then we segue into collaboration and how collaboration is the essence of it all. It's the bedrock of it all. It's the connection for all of us, and how using movement techniques and creative techniques allows us to collaborate better with each other, because it moves us from our head into our body, which is exactly where we need to be if we are going to be doing any meaningful work that is really going to come from the heart and the gut. And then we go back to the head to figure out the how. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy your conversation.
So yeah, it's crazy. The restaurant world is struggling right now, big time.
And like you and I, we've been in the restaurant world for, it's like our longest job, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, totally. And that's where I met you. That's where I met my husband. That's where I met my best friends, and you're one of my best friends. And it's like that's where so much of my life was in the restaurants. I'm gonna get all emotional thinking about it. It's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel really bad for everyone who's still in it, who's still waiting tables and trying to make it happen. And God, what are they going to do now? There's a great little gastro pub right down the street from us, and a friend of ours from Shady Grove bartends there. And so we've been Venmoing her some money, just a couple of times. And then we have a good friend who was a bartender forever at Shady Grove. Ashland's his buddy, and we've Venmoed him some money, and they're like, stop it. But we can, we're in a position where we can, and we might not always be in that position. So we're doing it while we can. And there's a place called Torchy's Tacos, and this guy stemmed off of, he worked with the Shady Grove Chewy's family, and then he had to go lay off so many people. And Sean says he's such a good guy. Like, he's like a restaurant dude, and it's just really upset him, and he's upset about Shady Grove. So yeah, there's friends of ours who are still in the business, and they're struggling.
It is heartbreaking. Like when I hear about the restaurants and bartending and everyone, but there is that special place in regards to that, especially when you hear places like Shady Grove going out of business, and all over the country, somebody has a Shady Grove that went out of business.
Yeah.
Like your times a million.
Mm-hmm.
And and so just to just share like where you and I were when it comes to our mindset on restaurant business. Do you remember talking to me about telling me like you think everybody should be working in a restaurant. And when, do you remember that lady that came in at Acme and like came in like on a vengeance and it was super busy and you turned, do you remember that story? Can you share that story?
I have the worst memory, but I do remember that. Yeah, because I had just seen, I think I had just seen like an Oprah episode where Oprah worked in a drive-through, and she had a whole new respect for people who worked in the drive-through. And so I was behind the bar, and this woman was like so rude and so impatient, and I just heard myself going, "I'm sorry, have you ever worked in a restaurant before?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "Oh, well, that makes sense. Okay."
Oh my God, Kaysie, you're so funny. So unless I'm trying to make you sound more badass in my mind than you are, like that, I'm taking your word that that's what happened. My version of that story is
Yeah, let me hear it. Because like I said, I have a horrible memory too.
no, but you may be on. I may just like be trying to make it like so much, like 3/4 yes, and then you're you know trying to answer the phone and whatever's happening, and you're trying to grab food and pack it up, and she comes in and is like hello, like priority, and
Yes.
you turned around and stopped and you said, and you were like walking in my, so maybe this is just in my mind, but like in my mind you're like going down Acme's long hallway like to the kitchen, and you turn around and you say, "Have you ever worked in a restaurant?" And she's like, gets all like tongue twisted. "No." And you're like, "Well, maybe you should." And you turn around and walk.
Yeah, no, that could be very true.
That's what happened.
That could, yeah.
You,
I think you're right.
you were super proud of yourself. Like I remember you were so, it was like right after, remember we waited tables at Acme during, so Acme was a Cajun restaurant. If you were in New York, it was a fantastic, kind of like a dive restaurant, but like super fun restaurant, kind of like Cowgirls a little bit.
Well, and it reminded me of Shady Grove too. It's one of the
It
things
had
I
that
loved
like
about
really
it.
down home feel. And so it was on Great Jones between Broadway and Lafayette. And when, it was Cajun, so we would do Mardi Gras. And you remember when we did Mardi Gras?
Yes, that I will never forget. Oh my God, that was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. A nightmare. Oh my God.
We expected to like, oh, we'll have a hurricane while we're running. And it was a shit show.
Oh my God. And my back hurt so bad that night. I remember it, and I just remember like having a tray full of drinks and everyone's like, whoa, whoa. Like,
the only place that I ever pulled tips was Acme. It was the only place. Now, I had worked at restaurants before. I don't know what it was. I was not suspect of it. I wasn't sketched. I wasn't like, what is this pulling tips? And we had one of the most like kindred dynamics between all of any restaurant I've ever worked at.
yeah.
I feel like pulling tips was why.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. And it's, what was interesting to me is how it wasn't about you're not pulling your weight. It was like, I am pulling my weight. Yeah. Like it was a competition actually, like to who's doing the best, who's being able to contribute the best. Yeah. Yeah. Instead, and it's nice because there could have been lazy folks who are like, cool, you got it.
No one, or on the flip, people that were like, screw that. I made a shit ton of money on that table.
Yeah.
We were right by a theater. We had tons of celebrities and actors who would come in and they would tip really well. And we could have been like annoyed, and no one, I don't remember anyone ever, I mean, as a group, like a cohesive unit, there would be nights where we'd be like, table 8 or table 12 or oh, you're so lucky you got table 12. I love them, or whatever. But there was never any animosity. There was never any you know, like Jason would break our chops, like, come on, hurry up. But like, it was so playful and fun. It created such like a family dynamic, and it was like a true collaborative process.
Yeah, it really was.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just,
you're right. And it was very bonding.
yeah, I just feel like there's like something to be said about just being able to like have that space where you're working together with people to make money, to have fun, to do a service, and then you end up going home with like, I mean, we consistently made good money there, especially for the
Yeah.
time. And so we're talking about restaurants and we're talking about the collaborative process there, and it immediately makes me think of you in the dance world and how it's such a collaborative process. Can you just speak to that, of what that means,
Yeah.
the importance of it?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of times it's in the creation process. Well, yeah, it's in the creation process, choreographer, dancer. But that's one of the things I talk with my students about is, because a lot of times, being a dance major is hard justifying it to family, friends, anyone. Oh, you're a dance major, that must you easy A. So I talk to them about all of the what soft skills that they get, and one of them being collaboration. And I actually was invited to do a keynote address, and I talked about everything that goes into being a dancer and a choreographer. And one of the things I talked about was collaboration, and some things that made me think, like in life, how we collaborate. One thing in particular is driving. Driving, like here in Austin, the traffic is so bad. And Sean talks to me like I'll drive and I'm always letting people in or merging, and like, oh yeah, making sure I have my blinker on and things like that. And Sean's like, oh, you're such a nice driver. I need to learn from you. But I think it you're collaborating with everyone. So as dancers, it's wonderful, like, well, I have this idea and we've got to use the space this way, and how is this going to work? And you have to really respect everyone's opinions and ideas and build off of them and just work with them. And you know I run a dance company at Texas State, and my students this year were all leaders. And so it was very hard because they all wanted to run the show. And I had to, and they would get so frustrated with each other. And I had to, okay, we have to figure out who's going to speak when, and everyone needs to go through me. I completely respect that it's important to you to go over this, and it's important to you to talk about the counts here, and you need to try this out, but we've got to focus on one thing at a time. And that's what collaboration is. And how do you communicate, and goes into communicating as well. Learning how to listen as much as speak, and just respect each other's ideas. Respect and communication, I think, are two big things that come out of it.
I don't know how it can't, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like just natural. It would be abnormal. It would be like you were stopping. You would have to consciously stop it for that not to happen, but you also have to be conscious that it is a natural part of it. And you're so fantastic, you specifically, at respecting the whole. Like, you're so aware and cognizant of all people who are involved. You're very diplomatic.
Yeah.
And I was thinking for dancing, and I'm thinking even for classes, like, oh, that could be kind of cool, but dancers, I think, would feel more comfortable with it, is to have them all do a tableau of their idea. So they don't have to verbalize it. And and then do the tap out. Like, I'm sure you have so many. So that was like my first thought. So for people who aren't familiar, tableau is like a frozen image. So you just put your body into a frozen image, and for the instructor to give some sort of a prompt, trying to brainstorm, and then everybody just think about it, and they do a tableau for what they're feeling is the contribution. And then they can, and then the other cool thing is you can take that into a whole class where then the group comes around and shares what they're observing. And then it might make the person who had the tableau go, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. That's not what I meant, but that it just could create this really cool dynamic of brainstorming.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, so like in a situation like that, I'm sure you do this in theater too. We have something called a name game, and you stand in a circle and you go around. And usually, I'll tell, and I mean, I work with teachers too, and they're like, I don't dance, I don't, and I'm like, don't worry, I didn't bring my tutu today. So we just go around the circle, and I tell them, think of your name. Everybody has a name, your name, and then think of a body part. So maybe shoulders. And so like I would be Kaysie, or maybe elbow, Kaysie, So I get them and I tell them, everyone turn around, kind of come up with a way that you move it. And then we'll go around. With the kids, sometimes you get to that and they're still like, and they'll be like, oh, and I'll go, great, that's a great movement right there, and then sometimes they'll be like, no, and they'll get them wanting to do something else. So yeah, doing something like that. I also have like sheets that I have them fill out, and like, so pick 3 action words. One person picks one person picks one, and one person picks one, and then now body parts that you'll move. And so it's not just one person who's like, okay, I think that we need to march and wiggle and skitter,
It seems like you've had no experience with students who are like that.
No. Yeah. And I love it. I love the kids who are like, oh, I'm all about it, but I tell them that's wonderful. That's great. But let's let, so-and-so talk. They haven't gotten to say anything yet. What do you want to do? And like you said, maybe they won't actually say it, but maybe they'll do it. And I'll say, well, that looks like a wiggle. How about that? And, oh yeah, okay. So, yeah, kind of. And sometimes if kids are really nervous or shy or scared, I'll have them help me. Why don't you sit out and let's watch for, today we're focusing on levels. Tell me when you see somebody go into a low level, and that kind of gets them into it. I actually had some parents of a very shy little boy one time. I talked to them and I said, I don't know, he sits out all the time. We talk about it. I try to involve him in other ways, but I just want you to know he's not actually participating the way you might want him to be. And they said, oh no, he comes home and he's like, okay, mommy and daddy, you're going to crawl on the, and he starts teaching them. And they're like, oh, okay, now what's that? So it's also interesting. Sometimes you don't see it happen right there in front of you. It's happening later, which is beautiful too, to think about.
It totally is. And it's so, it's just so encouraging as the leader to be able to check in, to just make sure, because you want to make sure your message is resonating no matter what the lesson or the support for the student, no matter the age. So when you have parents that are just receptive to that, that's awesome. And you would never have known that otherwise.
Yeah.
And so it's making me think too, like for people who are watching this, a lot of them are parts of teams and organizations. So do you have any ideas off the cuff of how you could transfer that to the games? The games transcend age. You name game transcends age. That's where trust is born. Like the sillier you can get in front of each other, guard is down. So playing those games may seem so juvenile, but they actually have a much more visceral, deeper purpose. So it's not about selling on the games, but just in regards to what's something universal about movement and the power of movement to like help people feel more within their body so that they have maybe like a boost of confidence to be able to engage with the group, if there is at all, that you would recommend people do or people read up on? Like, is there any area there?
Well, yeah. So what I try to remind anyone and everyone is, this is a quote I'm kind of stealing from Ken Robinson. Sir Ken Robinson is a very famous TED Talk. And he says, we all have bodies and we move them. That's completely a paraphrase, but that's the thing. We all are movers and we all are dancers, where it's not always about doing a triple pirouette, spinning around 3 times. It is just walking, jumping, sliding. These are things like as you go through the house, you might be dancing with your furniture as you're like dodging things, So I try to remind and show people, you're a dancer and you just don't know it. I actually have a dance titled Anyone Can Dance, and it was inspired by Sesame Street. And the skit was these fairies, Fairy Flight Academy or something. They had a recital coming up, and the one fairy thought, no, I can't dance. And the teacher fairy was like, yeah, you can. Here's some magical shoes. And the fairy could never get them. But then afterwards she was like, well, what did you do when the shoes went over here? And he was like, well, I slipped and slide on the banana. And she said, what did you do when the shoes went down here? When I shake. So you slip, slide, shake. And then what did you do here? I jump. So I turned that into a magical hat. And I have one of my dancers, and I usually try to put a boy in that role too, because what, boys dance? Yeah. So the dancers tell him, hey, this magical hat will help you. And every time he goes after it, he does a movement, and then they like take the movements and put it into a dance and see, you can dance. And then I talk about it with the audience, with the children. So I think I usually use the name game as a warm-up to show people what I mean. You can be creative and you can do simple little warm-up, and we go around, and then what we do is everybody learns the movements and we put it all together. And so it can be like Kaysie, Christy, Amanda, and then it's just like, now let's do it without saying the names. Da, da, ha, 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 ha. And I'll put on some music and I'm like, see, you just did a dance. So then I could take it into that. Sometimes, like, one thing I like to do is have a shadowing exercise where one student's the leader and one student's the follower. And then I'll talk them through, okay, make curved pathways with your elbows. And so this one, they get to be a leader, they get to just experience somebody else doing it. And then we'll flip it and the next person does it. Something else that I'll do, I'll tell the whole class, do something, and I'll just highlight somebody and go, okay, everyone freeze. Okay, so-and-so, can you show us what you were just doing? Keep doing it. Now everyone do it. So these are kind of ways that I try to start to get them out of their shell as well. And it's usually pretty successful.
It's sweet. So collaborative.
Yeah.
The whole thing is collaboration. The whole thing is like, we often think of ensembles with dance, but then I'm not well, now I know I am a dancer. Like, it takes everybody's part it takes the little movements with the big movements. If everybody had big movements, cool, that would be one piece, but don't underestimate the little movements too. And I love that connection to, like, don't underestimate the little contribution that you're doing in a project, or that you're doing by making a phone call to a client as part of the overall goal, because it's all contributing to the system flow. Yeah. So I love the idea of being able to get people in their groove and then highlighting like that pause of recognition and just, okay, Kaysie, all right, now everybody take, there's such a, because I've done that with kids, similar things like in theater, when all kids, and I don't think this goes away with age, when all kids, I feel so emotional today, it's getting me very nostalgic. When all kids are like moving freely, when they're so used to being bound in school and sitting still, and then they're like, what? I can move and all of it's okay? Like nothing's off limits? Like, this is amazing. And then when you do that, okay, everybody follow what Julie's doing. Julie feels such a sense of leadership. Like, it's like everybody's jumping up and down right now, or everybody's doing the silly worm, or it's such a, it's such a proud moment. And it's such a feeling of individualistic self-expression where you might've been doing something totally silly, even if it's just flailing your hair around, but now you have 20 other kids flailing their hair around.
Yeah. And then, yeah. So you watch and you can see they're like, oh yeah, do what I do. And then the other kids are like, that's really cool. I want to be even crazier because I want to be the next person too, so it kind of like takes them to
builds some momentum. It builds some momentum for them to be more risk takers, because they like may feel like I have to kind of test my limits with a little shoulder roll or something. And then someone starts flailing their hair. Number one, they're like, wait a second, I didn't know that was even an option. Number two, maybe there is that inner like competition, which is healthy, of like, I want to do something bigger, or even just like building off the momentum of it. It's such a huge, I don't feel like we learn. You're lucky if you have a teacher in traditional school that teaches you so early the power of collaboration.
Yes. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It is so needed. It's because that it is a part of life. I mean, relationships are collaborations. Everything. It's just a part of life. And so learning how to, just learning how to get along with others, socialize. With my final self-reflection that I give my students in my technique dance classes, what are things you watch the video yourself. What are things that you improved on? What are you proud of? All these things, questions. And then the last question is, who in class inspires you and why? And then we talk about it. And I tell them, we tend to compare, so especially as dancers, but I think, universally, we tend to compare ourselves a lot. Oh, I wish I was as good as that person. I'll never be as good as that person. And I tell them I would rather turn it to inspiration. What is it about that person that draws my eye? I want to embody that in myself. And then the other cool thing is when I talk to the other students, like your name came up as the one who inspired. And it's usually the students who are so hard on themselves, like, oh my God, so yeah, I would say that's another type of collaboration, finding inspiration, allowing the people around you to inspire you.
And to acknowledge who's inspiring you. I mean, because that, it can blow up across all fields. That's just where it's such a beautiful way of changing, like to go off of what you were saying, like changing that feeling of like, oh, I wish I was more like Kaysie. She's like rocking blue hair, and I never thought I could rock blue hair. And then switching that to like, why does it inspire Kaysie? Why does it inspire you? What is it about Kaysie coloring her hair blue that's inspiring you? It's a total shift of energy.
Not
taking it out on me. It's like, yeah, she does inspire me to take more chances. She inspires me to like change things up. Oh, cool. And it's just such a different energy.
Yes.
It's like a thank you to you versus like, A lot of times it's all genders, but a lot of times it's women who are feeling really threatened with a woman who is in their power and in their space of like, I'm
Yeah.
here, this is it. And if we share our inspiration versus our like, who does she think she is, coloring her hair blue,
Yeah.
that's me just getting uncomfortable with something here. It has
Totally.
nothing to do with you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so,
Yeah.
and it's reminding me too of it may have been Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way. Did you ever read The Artist's Way?
Long time ago.
I feel like you would love that.
Yeah. I should return to it.
Yeah. Oh, you did read it.
Yeah. Long, long, long time
Oh, I
ago.
thought you said no. I thought you said no. Anyway, I think I'm almost positive it was her, but she basically said like follow the envy. You know, be envious. There's nothing wrong with being envious, but follow the envy because it's a gift. If
Yeah.
you're envious that, just to keep riding this one home, like that Kaysie has blue hair, what are you envious about? I mean, I had that feeling. That's what got me back into writing. What do I need to do? Well, you need to write more. Okay. I mean, it was that point blank. If I saw other writers out there, I was getting envious about, what do you need to do? You need to put yourself out there a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like follow the envy and look at it as a gift. So then you end up thanking the person, which circles back to that inspiration.
Yes. Yes. Love it.
Totally. Well, we just solved all the world problems. I think we're done actually.
Like, especially in this day and age, this very unique time. Another thing I've been trying to, and I tell my students this all the time, but more than ever, is being a creative problem solver. Like dancing in these little squares and trying to take class in their little home spaces, and like we've got to rise to this challenge, and not just like, nope, this is not the way that I learned, this is not, I can't do it, forget it. Like, this is life right now, and life is going to throw challenges like this all the time. This is a pretty huge challenge, but let's be creative problem solvers. So that's another aspect of, I think, being an artist.
For sure. So is there something you want to share of like something that either a student or you or Sean, I consider Sean an artist too, as an architect. Like, is there anything that from in this circle that was a gem of problem solving in confined spaces and being creative that you're like, oh, I want to share that?
Well, I guess there's a couple of things. I was able to take this opportunity to get the students to really self-reflect more, because we didn't want to meet via Zoom twice a week when they had like 5 other classes that they were having to do that in. And so we would only meet once a week. And then the other time I would give them journal questions about what we're focusing on. And their responses have been amazing. And so it's made me think, I need to continue this. Even when we're back in the studio together, we need to do more self-reflection. So that's been my creative problem solving. Like, God, we can't meet twice a week. I want to keep up your education. This is something I feel like you've been needing to do anyway. So this is how we'll do it. So that's exciting. And then just something else, when I choreograph, I like to, like, combinations for the students to do, I like to take up space and travel. And I couldn't do that for this because I knew they were in dorm rooms and bedrooms and little living room spaces. And so I kept my space very small, and I had to challenge myself with creating a movement combination that didn't travel much. And I never do that. So I was really excited, and it's something that I want to continue with in the future. Another thing, in talking about collaboration, well, we bonded in our disappointment of not getting to go perform at a dance festival. They worked so hard. Fundraising, that was a major collaboration that they had to work on. and then it didn't happen. And so I tried to find other ways for us to get through this, and we choreographed a video dance, and I had them all show me the movement, and they had to wipe the screen, and the next movement had to start with wiping the screen, so it goes away, and then the next person.
Oh, I love it. That is so cool.
So yeah, so that's, I feel like there's been a lot of creativity. Well, even like with my modern class, I would have them do the phrase, and they were like in a diagonal, and they were doing it what's called felt timing, just on their own timing. And like the choreography that I've seen in all the squares, like I feel like there's so much that you can do.
Well, you have such an optimistic viewpoint of that. I mean,
I try.
Maybe most creatives do. Maybe I just surround myself with creatives who are like that, who get like super jazzed up and excited of like the confines, like, ooh, the structure is going to make me have to be more creative. And so there's like an excitement of that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me. The wiping is I can so visualize that. That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We were trying to think of how to go from one dancer to the next. And there's a kind of a trend right now where one dancer will end one way and then the next dancer will start that way. And so, yeah, that's really cool.
Have you ever done the mirror exercise?
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to say that's a total theater movement.
Well, and that could go with the shadowing, like one person's a leader and the other person follows. Yeah.
And then switching too. For any organizational leaders who are watching this and who just want to dabble in so here's the thing, the opportunity that COVID is providing is that everybody had moments of being totally scared shitless, having total fear. So the things that scared you before are so minuscule compared to this. Yeah. So like leading something that you don't really know how to lead is so much milder now. So there's something to be thankful of with that. So if you're a leader who's like, yeah, I've heard about, these movements or this improv stuff or dance stuff that is great for like collaboration with groups, and before maybe would have been like, I feel like a total idiot doing this. This is not my wheelhouse at all. Now it's kind of like, what do I have to lose? You know what I mean? Like, let's just do it. So if you're hearing this, doing the shadow exercise where you just pair people up and someone leads by doing the movements, someone's behind them at just copying them, right? Mm-hmm. And then the mirror exercises where you're facing each other. So you could do both. You could start where you're not facing each other because eye contact can be somewhat uncomfortable. Then you can, so it's like scaffolding. Then you can shift to mirroring and just have that be the jumping off point for a conversation on collaboration or leading and following, or how did you feel when you were leading versus how you were following? And it doesn't have to be a conversation. It could be something where everybody writes down on Post-its or writes down in a chat, and so they just share it that way. But just to get people all involved, like it's just so huge.
And I've done more so the name game, because you don't have to travel like in big groups. Like I was a part of something where I at the university where I was in a room with professors from all across campus. So you have physics and sociology and English and dance, and we all had to kind of lead everyone through something. And I'm like, name game, and they're like, oh God, it's the dancer. What are we gonna have to do? But it's also, and another thing with the name game is, again, I tell each person, when we get to you, you have to remember the movement. You're the leader for the moment. So when we get to you, don't mind us. We're just staring at you so we can remember your movement, and then we go on to the next person.
Mm-hmm. And even taking it one step further, I've done the name game too, where say that there are 10 people in a circle. The first person who takes the risk is off the hook in a way, because they say, Kaysie, And then the second person has to remember Kaysie's,
Uh-huh.
then mine. And then the third person has to remember the first. And you can help. So here's the other added piece to it too. You can help the person, but they need to ask for help. So the two parts are that helping us get used to asking for help, and the person who wants to be the fixer, who's just helping, you got to bite your tongue, because sometimes the person doesn't want help. They just might be thinking more, and you're disempowering them by assuming they want help.
True.
So they, and sometimes depending on the kids, you can think of a silly word like banana. Like if you need, it's like the safe word, like banana or Hulk or whatever. And they have to say that word. And then people can say, oh, this is what Kaysie did. And they get really excited because they remember it. So it adds on those elements of contribution and listening and paying attention and respecting each other. I'm like, I cannot wait until this is over, because for many reasons, but I'm like, I'm coming to Austin. We're finally going to do this collaborative workshop together.
I know. That's, because I teach theater and dance in the community class that I've told you about. And like everything we're talking about are things we've done in this class. And I would love to have you come speak with my class too.
I just feel like anything you said, I would just say yes. You could just say, like, do you want to come out? I'd be like, sure, I'll figure it out on the plane. Like, honestly, because whenever you and I have these conversations, I get so jazzed up. I just get like, my creative brain is just like, ving.
I know this has been bringing back memories. I just remember at ACME, like I'd come in from a workshop or you'd come in from a workshop and we would just be like, oh my God, this is it. And we always just like, it's totally bringing back. I love these conversations.
I do. I know. I totally do. And it is. And I know I want to tell, this is what I want to tell you too. But yes, it totally is. It's always such a joy talking to you. So two thoughts came to mind that I'm just going to throw at you. You may have already thought about this. It may not be possible. It may make you think of something else. So your students who are confined, the first thing I thought of was them doing like a jail piece, choreographed jail piece right away. I was just thinking like the wall, like what they can do with like, if they're feeling confined. It makes me think of Chicago. I don't know if you saw Chicago. The whole jailhouse scene where they're all doing, and maybe they can get inspired by that. Like or maybe they all take on a personality, and so they have to dance from that personality. So like all the different emotions, maybe they do an embarrassed dance, and someone in another box does a joy dance, another one does an anger dance. And so that came to mind. And then the second thing was, if they are okay with this, it would be anonymous or not, you'd figure that out. But if they're journaling self-reflection, that's what you were saying, right? Then you ask them to turn in and you anonymously hand it out, and someone creates a choreographed piece from that other person's self-reflection.
Ooh,
which can be really just powerful, and that whole like human connection of empathy and understanding and perspective. Like, oh wow, I never thought of it like that, or oh, my heart goes out for that person because I am feeling this way about that, but that helped me like shift gear. And then they create that dance piece for whatever inspires them from that piece.
I love that. Yeah. I feel like we've done something similar. It was more from the theater aspect, where we did interviews and they flipped on who, like you read somebody else, you were the other person that was interviewed and you got to act it out.
Oh, I love that because I've done that, but so they did it non-verbally?
Oh, no. It was more theater. It was a theater exercise.
So to say it again, they interviewed each other and then they introduced themselves as the other person?
So if I remember correctly, because this was last year, our theme, we've been having a class theme every year. This year it was climate change.
Okay.
And last year it was mass shootings. So it was pretty intense. And so all the students went out and interviewed like a family member or a friend, like asked them like 3 questions, and recorded it. and then I think they brought it back, and they didn't. So like they met up with a partner and they switched the interview. So be like, if I interviewed Sean and then I came back with you and you were my partner, you would be Sean.
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So it was, yeah. So it's,
I'm getting a feeling like Matthew Shepard. It's reminded me, I don't know why, but it's making me think of the Laramie Project for, well, probably because you said mass shootings and it wasn't a mass shooting, but it reminds me of that for some reason, for whatever reason, but of the Laramie Project.
yeah. Yeah. And I think that may have been even been brought up.
Yeah. That's such a great, like you could jump off of that. And it's just such a way of, preaching to the choir with a creative right now, but it's the direct line to empathy. It's just a direct line. There's
Yeah.
you're feeling it and you're
Yeah.
safe because you there's no, the high risk is your ego. The low risk is that you're safe. So there's no way to do it wrong,
Yeah.
and
You
it's
know, something,
powerful. It's just so powerful.
another thing this just made me think of is gestures. You know, I get teased a lot about how I gesture when I talk. But I'm like, everyone does it. Like if you look around and you really pay attention, and you bring up a topic and you watch something that, like a question I had last year was, I guess, what are you excited about? And I had a student who said something like, I'm this close to graduation, and so that was our movement. And yeah, so watching the way people gesture, and like if you're interviewing somebody, and noticing those gestures and taking that in, and you can create a little gesture dance off of that.
Yeah. Yeah. The nonverbals, like getting into the nonverbals there.
Yeah.
Just trying it on.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, the empathy thing, like this excitement, and really, or like, God, I'm so nervous, and it's like, everyone does that now, and so this can be, start creating a dance. And so again, that's why I say everyone's dancers. I talk about when you're on the phone and you're like talking to somebody and you're like, and then I was walking down the street and this guy just like jumped in front of me, and the person that you're talking on the phone with can't see anything that you're doing, but you're still dancing, you're still acting it out,
Yeah.
So
it's expressing, it's your body expressing.
Yes. Yeah.
If you could deliver like to people in regards to the importance of movement, dropping back into your body, getting out of your head, is there one or two exercises, a warm-up or something that you feel like on days where their brain's fried from being on the computer all day working or juggling all the hats or feeling intense emotion, we'll say that, so like fear or anxiety or overwhelm or anger, what is one or two exercises where they can drop into their body?
First of all, I would say get up, walk away. I like to, how you just, if you're frustrated, just shake. I would say shake. Something else I would say is tactile. It is amazing the way it can just all the way to your feet, and breath, and moving with that breath. Because you're getting oxygen back through where maybe it's just been like stuck here the whole time. So I would just walk away, shake it out, pat it out, and breathe.
Oh, that's so simple as long as people remind themselves to do it.
Yeah.
It's 4 steps. It's pause yourself enough to push away and physically push, like that's part of something I was listening about embodied self-awareness, is literally push yourself away from your desk.
Love it.
Inform your body that you're done. Don't just get up out of your chair. Like physically push yourself away, or put your computer top down, whatever it is. Is that the formal term? Is there like a more formal term? I don't know. Anyway, the point is you push yourself away, you stand up, you walk away, and you then do the shakeout. So in improv, it's called like shakedown or crazy eights. And so you can do a full body shake, like Kaysie's saying. You could also do like a countdown from 8 on each limb, like 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then your right leg, then your left arm, and your left leg, and then 7, 6, 5, 4, 7, 7, 7, 6, 5, 4, and then just do one big shake. Whew. And then the tap.
You can tap, or you can brush.
Or brush. Or if you have one of those like head things, you know, those are awesome. I just bought stress balls too. So even like doing like a few stress ball squeezes, but like the head, does everybody know what I'm talking about? Like those comb things that like feel, you might fall asleep. I don't know. That's a little risky. That's a risky move. But, and then you breathe. So here's why I love that, because so many times people are like, go to your breath first. And it's not that it doesn't work, but I depending on how extreme your mood is, the last thing you want to hear is just breathe. So I love that that's the last thing in the list, because at that point you're ready to breathe.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Because I think it's important to be reminded that you need to breathe. But yeah, that's interesting, because I took those movements from something called the brain dance, which is based off of the 8 developmental patterns we go through at the beginning of our life. And so there's more, but some of my favorites are just the whole body movement, and then the tactile. And we always talk about starting off with breath, because that's the first thing you, right? When you come out of that canal, you take a deep breath. But I thought that's, so we all are always told to breathe. So that's interesting, because I just thought I'll come back to it, because it's important to be reminded, but let's talk about some other things first. And I love your push movement. I am walking away from the computer.
It's telling your body. So one more thing. Can I keep you for like 3 more minutes just to add one more thing?
I love it.
So there in this, and if you have anything to share on this, I would love to hear it. But this is, so you're making me think too. I'm like getting flooded with all of these ideas about movement that have come through from acting training, but then also getting back into like embodied self-awareness. It's all about movement and stillness and paying attention to what's happening from the neck down. So there was something that was, it's so simple. So if you, the type of movement for what you need. So if you need to get freer, like if you need to get into that brainstorming mode, then you do more of a free-flowing dance, which is telling your mind, like, you're going to be open, you're going to be free, you're going to be expansive, you're going to be like, your brain's getting on fire to be able to think of like for ideation or whatever it is. Or if you're going to a networking party, maybe you do like some sort of jazz number, so it gets your personality up. And it doesn't matter if I've never taken jazz, but just like what you think would be jazz, right? Watch the Singing in the Rain scene. Like, it's just, oh my God, that scene where my kids love it. Like, it's just so endearing. If you're going to be presenting, do boxing, direct, deliberate motions, or even shadow boxing, or like some sort of like sharp clipped motion, so that your mind and brain are in that space of like, I want to be concise, I want to be to the point. So if you want to mix it up, I don't know, it's unscientifically proven that if you mix it up and you're going on a job interview, you'll be able to be deliberate and a little like jazz hands, like show your personality and be concise. Or like hip hop, if you're going to go network, just to kind of get into that space.
I love it.
Let your mind know it's okay. So it just made me think of that.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. My favorite is the just free flowing, because it's improv, right? You're thinking spontaneously. uh you're not preparing, you're not
No,
planning
you're
what you're
listening to your
thinking.
body. You're
Yeah, and then
literally listening to your body. It's like when I told you that I took that class in New York for my 40th birthday, committed in.
yeah,
So that was a game changer. Like that was, I had like this moment where I was like, wait a second. There was a life before knowing this. Like, why is everybody keeping this under lock and key? Like it
wow,
was, he's just in, he's brilliant in regards to, his name's Josh Peiss. He's an actor and he teaches these classes. He probably does more than that, but I don't want to diminish him. But he's just very wise, super humble, very open. Like he's just open. His eyes are open. His heart is open. And a huge part, if not the part, is to get out of your mind and into your body. So
mm-hmm.
we'd be in this space. It was an intensive for like 2.5 days from 9 to 4. I stayed with Steph Jones. It was like around the corner. So she's on Prince Street, and it was like around the corner, or she's on 6th Ave or whatever. It was like 2 feet away. I'm like, what are the chances? This is like serendipitous. This is so cool. And he would just play this random music, and we would just have to dance how we felt. And so there would be super sensual music. There would be tribal music. There would be a little bit of like a rock, maybe jazz music. And there were no rules. You just had to move your body, and you had to listen to your body. And it was the most liberating thing I have ever done in my life. And I took that back, and I do it a lot of times for different reasons, but just recently I've been doing it for writing. Like sometimes I use my mental, like I got to get this out for writing, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes your mind's like blocking you from creating, whether it's writing or dance or whatever it is. And I've just been using that, like, you got to get out of your head. All right, what song, and just go through and listen. And whatever song hits me, I just dance to it in a completely uninhibited way. And it's like magical. It's like dreamlike. You feel altered state of consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so great, because like, working with non-dancers, um and if you begin and talking them through it, and in the beginning they're too self-conscious. How do I look? Is this the right decision? And but you continue through it, and it's like, I don't care anymore. And yeah, I love that, because then it can like take you into the I just love the idea of taking you into brainstorming, and going from there. I think brainstorming is a wonderful thing.
Because the number one brainstorming is there's no bad ideas.
Right,
Like,
exactly. And that's the same with improv and
yes,
dance. There's
yeah,
no bad ideas.
yeah,
Just hurt yourself.
yes. Don't hurt yourself.
That's
But
what I love about performing too. Once I just let muscle memory take over, I usually don't remember performing.
thank you so much for doing this. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I loved it.
With